Welcome to today's webinar, Working Like an Engineer. So one of the things I want to talk about today is the idea of what InfraWorks 360 is. And really, it's about communicating ideas. So as a preliminary scope of things of what I'm going to do today, show you some of the features and functionalities of InfraWorks 360 in terms of working like an engineer, opposed to just visualization using InfraWorks. We're also going to look at some serious road design in terms of the new functionality that they've included now with InfraWorks 360 R2. We'll try to make it to doing more with point clouds in terms of what point cloud functionality brings to the table with the new InfraWorks release, and then also flood simulation. We also have a new feature set that allows us to do legal boundaries, pull in data sets with parcel boundaries, and also using right-of-way. And then there'll be a bonus feature at the end, time permitting. So the first thing, again, working like an engineer. So the first thing we want to be able to do is we'll take a look at some of these things, and as you can see with my control here, I can go in and kind of set up visual concepts in terms of how I want to view my site. So one of the things we're going to look at is how easily it is to control what you see and how you see it. Also, we're going to take a look at some of the engineering and conceptual views that's straight out of the box. Also, we're going to talk about how we can customize those different views and also create my own. So why is that important? So being able to easily control realism versus engineering in detail, where our tie-ins are at our existing ground from our proposed rating. So we'll take a look at some of those things as we kind of move throughout the presentation. So again, being able to see in detail with the new release, you're able to work with contours by simply cutting them on in a specific area of interest. We also have the ability to reflect GIS terrain with terrain data and along roads. We also have the ability to create and control our contour interval. So again, customizing and control of the contour interval. And again, why is that important for an engineer? It's important to see detail in your design. Again, where things are tying in, how we want to stay within the grading, within the right-of-way. So those are some of the things that are going to be critical in terms of using InfraWorks 360. And then we move on to something like cross-sectional views. We can easily view cross-sections of our road. So one of the things you want to keep in mind is there's going to be design roads, and then there's going to be component roads that we take a look at. So the component roads are really critical because those are the ones that allow the functionality that we'll be currently looking at right now and utilizing during the presentation. And then being able to switch between different views. So a conceptual typical section to a ratio aspect, and then also cut and fill. So just different views that allow us to kind of get a feel for what's going on within that cross section at that specific station. And again, aspect ratio. And also, why is that important? Because now, again, the detail in the design, more and more engineers are now being able to understand the context of engineering outside of just the typical engineering in itself. And then earthwork quantities, cut and fill calculations anytime while you're working. So the ability to see that and the impact of what that would be in terms of cut and fill, and then being able to view detailed values on the screen. So a report. So then being able to push out that report into a Microsoft Access file. And then again, the ability to control key settings that's going to affect our earthwork. So if we move a point of vertical intersection up or down, how does that affect our quantities? So we have that ability to push that data back and forth seamless from spreadsheet back into InfraWorks. So updating dynamically, and again, why is this important? Because now we can assess the cost impact from my design in terms of cut and fill for my road. As I work, as I go through cut and fills of each cross section within my road. One of the things that has been an issue for InfraWorks over the years is the idea of unit configuration. So now you have the ability to individually control different types of measurement. So acreage, square footage, cubic yards, also size, so percentage-wise. So you have that ability to look at those things in terms of what you want to control for precision, and also switching back and forth between imperial units and also metric units. And again, that brings value in terms of what makes sense to you as you're designing. We also want to take a look at road design, specifically with component roads, being able to add, access smart components like curbs, gutters, sidewalks, configure components independently. For instance, if we wanted to, we can add in bus lanes, building assets, road assets in terms of trees, power poles, light poles, and inserting those components anywhere along that design. And again, the reason I mentioned component roads is because with design roads, you don't have this functionality. So I will show that in the presentation as we kind of go. So really it gives you better flexibility in terms of your road design in terms of specific project needs. And as we move on, specifically within our component roads, now we have the ability to insert dynamically based upon stations. So complete configuration one at a time, and also being able to store in terms of a specific style that I want to be able to use. So a lot of us who come and work with InfraWorks are familiar with styles in Civil 3D. Now I can go and pick on a road and tell it specifically, I want to use this style on this specific road design. And then again, adding detail design such as poles and lights and guardrail and trees. So again, more flexibility, greater design of road efficiency, and details. And again, all with component roads. And then we also have roadside rating. So InfraWorks has always had this idea of roadside rating, but now we can individually grade components of that road, whether it's the lane, whether it's the curb and gutter, whether it's the daylighting, whether it's the ditch in between, or even the daylighting outside of the road. So independently control slopes on either side of the road and any material. So for instance, as you can see, greater flexibility in our road design to meet project needs. And then super elevations, and clearly if you're using laying out road design, you want the ability to see our super elevations. So flip a switch and we can go specifically to advanced capabilities in terms of super elevations along our road. We have on-screen graphics to clearly tell a story and communicate the idea of that road design. Also, based upon standards, ability to make changes quickly to meet advanced capabilities for our project needs. And then we have pavement drainage, and design rules have always had pavement drainage, but now we have smart components in our road design. So pavement drainage has gotten a lot smarter, recognizing where super elevations are in our road details, and also recognizing now we have inlets that need to be moved along our road. So clearly, if that was a road just coming downhill without our ditches, the inlets would be parallel and perpendicular to each other. And here you can clearly see where they have moved automatically based upon the impact of that drainage flowing downhill. And then we also have extended bridge capabilities, matching cross sections. So clearly along that bridge, I mean, yes, we could have ditches, but there's never going to be grass ditches along that bridge. So within the new InfraWorks 360, based upon the component bridge design, now we can clearly put in components within a section. So clearly there's going to be a concrete ditch there now opposed to a grass. And then also detailed dimension in terms of controlling our deck, and also variable cross sections between and around deck and girders. So we'll take a look at that in the presentation. And I'm just kind of showing some really quick things now in terms of what we're going to be taking a look at. And then ultimately, you can go deeper into your bridge design with the bridge analysis tool. So girder analysis, and then being able to run a report, and from that report, now diving deeper into detailed design. So there is a product that was out several years ago that was independent of InfraWorks, which was structural bridge design. Now this allows you to go straight into structural bridge design after our report and do detailed design faster. So when I select give full report, I can compare. It's something quick right now. It's free in terms of the analysis, but what it takes you into is the actual structural bridge design application. So again, probably in the next 30 days, this will be free in terms of getting that analysis and running that bridge report. So you want to take advantage of that. So line girder analysis, and then point cloud data. Being able to automate the creation of terrain from a point cloud. Distinguish the ground points from other points like the power poles and the power lines. And then ultimately being able to optimize that point cloud where you can use an actual surface model. So again, that's important because the practical use of a point cloud doesn't really give you that in Civil 3D. Now that data can be pulled straight from a point cloud into InfraWorks into an existing conditions. And then again, objects from point cloud, automatically recognizing light poles and trees, and the ability to now insert blocks, model objects based upon that point cloud. So a lot of flexibility and functionality in terms of detail, in terms of what you may do with InfraWorks 360. Again, swapping out 3D models and quickly turning those models from point cloud data So as we move on here, some of the new features again, areas of interest. We now have objects, parcels, easements, and right-of-way in which we're going to take a look at. And then also flood analysis and simulation. So we're going to take a look at that. That's been in InfraWorks for several years now as a part of Hydronia river flow 2D analysis. Now being able to create animations by putting an inflow and an outflow in a specific area, and then running that analysis to kind of show animations in terms of water depth, surface elevation, and velocity. And then also being able to create a snapshot to easily recall based upon that animation and analysis. So once we pick play, it generates our animation and then runs a quick animation in terms of the flood simulation. And we can do that again with depth, water, surface elevation, and velocity. And then the bonus feature is, again, the idea of styles being remembered in InfraWorks 360. Again, a unique list of recent styles per object, and we can take a look at that also. And we'll talk about at the end during the questions of where you go to get the new InfraWorks. And again, just downloading it from the website, it'll automatically recognize your email and give you the latest version. And then last but not least, we talked about the survey at the end for the webinar for you the chance to win the $25 gift card, and then we'll have questions at the end. So with all that being said, clearly most of us have an idea of what InfraWorks brings to the table. I'm just going to kind of show functionality in terms of what I discussed in the PowerPoint. So the first thing, being able to open up a model. Again, model builder is one of the most exciting things in terms of InfraWorks, because you can go anywhere in the world, build a model, define a specific area, and generate that model. So here clearly, I just want to be able to kind of go through some of the things that I've kind of done in here. You can bookmark specific things in reference to your project or your site. Clearly being able to move around in this site in terms of perspective, communicating ideas of what the site would look like, how it affects our project. So again, being able to bookmark, I'm just going to jump right into it. So one of the things we want to take a look at is this idea of, again, working like an engineer. So the first thing that we want to do is, again, the big thing with some serious road design. From here, I'm just going to zoom in, and one of the things I want to quickly be able to do is I want to draw in a design road. So something as simple as create a local design road. I'm going to say street, sidewalks, and green space. From this design road, I can just pick in here, and you could see based upon AASHTO standards, it's giving me a design speed for my road. If I pick on it, just picks and clicks, it automatically gives me my layout in terms of my curve radius for my horizontal layout. So I'll pick here, then I'll come here, and then I'll make it really simple and come up into this road to tie in. Pretty straightforward. As I look at this road, as I pick and click, it's already pulling elevations from my road layout. So right now I just got a T coming in here, so I'm just going to do something really quick. We have this road design. I'm just going to pick on this road here. It's a road that came in from InfraWorks. I'm just going to convert it to a design road. And I'm going to do some really quick things because we should be aware of this functionality. So here's my design road. If I pick on it, I'll just drag it right here to the center. And that makes it an actual intersection. So from this intersection, I can determine what type of vehicle has the ability to drive based upon these curve radiuses and the astro standards based upon my alignment layout. So I'll just select a SU30 truck, and clearly you can see that my intersection has widened my contours. My curve radiuses have been increased. And if I go right back, I can just go back to a single unit car. I also can go from a intersection to a roundabout. So just some flexibility in terms of what I want to do in terms of my site. So some really quick design capabilities in terms of layout. And if I wanted to go back, I can exit that mode, change that. If I move this over, change that from a roundabout. I'll go ahead and edit, change that from a roundabout right back to an intersection. Pretty straightforward. Everyone should be able to do that. Okay, as we move on here, I'm going to pick on my road to the west. Just going to right click and convert this to a design road. It's created my intersection in terms of my road. So one of the things that I quickly want to be able to do is I have kind of topo data because I know this is not just flat. So if I pick on my road, if I go up to my analysis, I can do a quick profile view. And here's the profile of that road. And right here in the middle, I can right click and add a PVI. So that just added a PVI, and if you look, you can see that there's my PVI, and I can move it around vertically if I wanted to, and horizontally. So I'm just going to give that some grading. And typically what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to keep our finished grade alignment as close to our existing ground as possible. But for presentation purposes, we're going to take a look at these things. Okay? So a lot of feel there, right? So if I pick right back on it, I can pull it right straight back down. Pretty straightforward. When I pick into the screen, dynamically updates. So the idea in terms of what you get in terms of this in Civil 3D, a lot of similarities. So I'll pick on it. I'll lengthen my vertical curve, and there's my road. So pretty straightforward. What I want to be able to do now is we talked about working like an engineer, serious road design. So now we want to come in and take a look at how we can view our design. So there's a conceptual view. There's also an engineering view. So an engineering view differentiates a little bit because we don't need sky. We don't need to see clouds. But what we want to see is we want to see how our grading ties into our existing ground from our proposed. So what I can do is I can create my own view. So my own view, I want to create a view that references wireframe. I can change the light intensity. I can change what my sky looks like and the opacity of my topo. I can change my field of view in terms of what I want to be able to see. So I create my own view in reference to my customizing a specific view. So now I have 3 views here. In this view, I can go in and just call it wireframe. So something simple in terms of what we want to be able to look at. And if I wanted to, I could jump right back to contextual. So the ability to add in those views and then reset active views on the fly. So now let's take a look at design. So again, easily controlling views from concept to engineering straight out of the box. And again, it's important because we want to know realism versus engineering and detail. So again, being able to visualize that. So now if I pick on my road, if I right click, it gives me convert to a component road, drainage, right away, and add a bridge. One of the things we want to be able to do is get more accustomed to using component roads. In the beginning of InfraWorks, our big importance was the idea of using design roads. But now that they've kind of worked with component roads, this gives us a lot more flexibility in terms of what we want to do in terms of design. So it's going to give me a little dialog box and saying converting a style. So it's showing me what style I want to convert it to. 4 lanes with sloped grass and median, with asphalt shoulder, and decorations. So I'm just going to convert it to a component road. So here's my component road. Pretty straightforward. It's got decorations. I can individually go in and select the components from my road. I can change the width, I can change the depth, I can change the slope individually. That's the beauty of working with component roads. If I pick off of that and right click, I can show design speeds, super elevations, roadside rating, and I can also insert road components, decorations, and change where I want my assemblies in terms of my sections. So if I pick on my road here again, and if I go into my profile view, I'm just going to elevate that just a little bit there. And I'm going to move this over here. And when I pick it in the screen, it updates dynamically. If I pick on it and right click, now I want the ability to show my cross-sectional view. So again, showing my cross-sectional view, I have 3 perspectives that I can take a look at. So if I right click, show roadside rating, show design speeds. And as I move my template up and down, it's showing me cross sections within my road design. So something pretty straightforward. So that's going from a design road to a component road. If I pick on it, I can just delete it out. So in terms of flexibility, a lot of flexibility for what-if scenarios. So now I'm going to start out with a component road. So if I come in and I select component roads, now I have the flexibility to start out with a component road from scratch. So a 4-lane divided shoulder decorations. So if I pick on it, and I pick my road here, so now with my component road, it's showing me a design speed of 70 miles per hour. So what does that do in terms of my curve radius? Now that curve is going to have to be a lot longer at a design speed of 70. If I right click, I can undo that. So now I'm going to type in 30. When I hit 30 and I pick this point, now it's showing me my curve radius in terms of 30 miles an hour. So AASHTO standards being adhered to as I'm laying out. Then I'll go in and then I'll pick right here, and I'm just going to pick 2 points without putting a curve in there. And I'll just come up and double pick into that design road. Here's my road components. If I pick on my road and I move it up just a little, you can see I can pick on my grip and then dynamically updating on the fly. So we have some cut and fill. If I pick on this point right now, I can right click and say convert geometry from not a known curve to curve with PC, PT, and my point of intersection. Dynamically updating. And if I pick on it again, I can raise or lower at any point. If I pick my other grip, I can change the elevation. So I'll change this elevation from scratch to 600. Dynamically updating. Okay, so now if we take a look at our component road, we'll pick on it, right click. Now we can show super elevations. So now we have decorative objects based upon sections in reference to our super elevations. So one of the first things I would want to do is I'm going to pick that section. And if I pick on that section and kind of roll it through the site, you can see my shoulders and my road in terms of super elevations. And again, graphically, we want to be able to display this in different views. So maybe I just want to show and see a super elevation view. So if I pick on my section and kind of roll it through, you can see it's just showing a super elevation view. Ultimately, we need to see what the impact of our sections are. So maybe I want to see my cut and fill. And clearly you can see up here at the top, most of this is fill. And there's some cut. So clearly you can see decorative objects just kind of showing me where my cut and fill is. As I move throughout, right there, you can see where there's cut and where there's fill. I can also turn on in terms of my cut and fill calculations. So as I move throughout, again, cut and fill, and even if I wanted to change my aspect ratio, I could show that also, so you can get a better view in terms of what you're looking at. And we'll switch right back. So we have different perspective views in terms of our cross-section. We have cut and fill in terms of area. I can also generate reports. So here's my earthwork quantities, and if I want to push this out, I can generate a report. I'm just going to create a quick CSV file, and I'm just going to put it on my desktop. I'll make it simple. I'll save that out. To my desktop, and we'll pick on that again. And then one of the things I want to quickly do is, if I pick on this, right click, and I move this throughout, again, I can show design speeds, roadside grading, and also road geometry. So if I select to move this up, I'm going to close this road cross section. I'm going to come back into my profile view. Then on my profile view, I'm just going to add a PVI right there in the middle. Then that PVI right there in the middle, I'm just going to raise it up. I'm going to pick in the screen, dynamically updating. I'm going to pick up my road again. Right now, I have a fixed width. So if I pick on that, and let me just move this down. If I pick on that, I can go to a fixed slope. So my fixed width is 32 feet. If I come in, I can just say, well, I want that to be 50 feet. So now my fixed width is 50 feet. If I pick on it again, I can tell it I want a fixed slope now. So now it gives me my cut and fill slope. So maybe I want 4:1 here and 2:1 on my fill slope. So we'll put in 2:1. So again, the ability to do roadside grading to kind of fill in here. And if I pick on my road one more time, again, being able to specify specific settings in reference to specific stations if I wanted to. So now I want to go in and right click. I can show my geometry, my roadside grading. It's showing me what style I'm using in reference to this freeway. And then I can also cut on lane side marking and super elevations. It's kind of showing me my geometry here. So if I came back and right clicked, again, drainage, I want to add a right of way. So I'm going to add a right of way. So now I have right of way here. And if I pick on my right of way, it changes my parameters in reference to my right of way. So I'm going to go ahead and display my right of way, which allows me to display my contours. So not only do I display my contours, I can go in and change my contour interval. So we'll change that to 1, dynamically updating my contour intervals. And you can see where it's super elevating at. So these are some of the things we want to take advantage of in terms of working with our site. And you can see how things tie in here in reference to our contours. And again, picking on the road, we can show contours, roadside grading, how it's linked in, and we also can specify specific areas of interest. So I'm on one side. If I pick on it, right now that material is just showing me contours. So if I go in and pick this, I can specify a specific style in reference to material. So under terrain, maybe I want that to be stone. So just giving you some flexibility in terms of what this would look like in reference to stone now. So on one side is stone, the other side, tie-in grading. So you have that flexibility to kind of display different perspectives in terms of what you want to be able to see. So again, engineering detail in your design. Contours in reference to reflect GIS terrain, contour intervals, roadside cross-sections to display in different views, zooming and panning within our cross-section. If I right-click and show my design speed, show my cross-section view, I can pan and zoom in my cross-section view. Again, just giving me a feel for the contextual layout and design within my project. Controlling aspect in terms of detail. And then also specific views for our perspective. Cut and fill area, generating a cut and fill report. In terms of our sections. So cut and fills anytime you want. View detailed values on the screen in a report anytime you want. Controlling the quantities of your cross sections. So if we take a look at on the eye, and we still have multiple palettes here, we can go in and start looking at our properties. We can look at our model properties. So within our model properties, it defines the whole model, where it's located at, and the information that it contains and where it's coming from. We also have the ability to go in to specific proposals. If we go into Model Explorer, we can see our specific surface areas for our specific objects that we want to cut on and cut off. If I go into my little toolbox here, now I can go into my application options. My application options, we can go into navigation, where our model generation is being displayed. More importantly, unit configuration. So now in terms of length, I can go in and say, well, based upon length, I know I want to use US survey feet. Based upon area, I want to go in and select acres. Slope ratio, I can do rise over run or a percentage. We can also do volume in terms of cubic yards, cubic meters, and again, jumping back and forth in terms of what you want to be able to display. So as an example, if I pick on my right-of-way, now it's showing me in acreage what my area is in that right-of-way. So some real flexibility in terms of values that you want to pull out. So values between imperial and metric, different types of precision for our measurement, and then different units. So again, a lot of flexibility, but only contained within component roles. We also have the ability right now, and clearly this is for visualization purposes, but what I want to be able to do is I want to go back in, and in my profile view for my road, we'll pick on that, which is going to make that a lot flatter. We'll pick inside the model, everything dynamically updates. Pretty straightforward, right? But we also have the ability to change our decorations because again, these are component roads. So right now, if I pick on this component, which is this pole, so it says street light, if I came in, maybe I want to say I want these to be trees. So again, being able to change the components individually. If I pick on my ditch, now you can see based upon my ditch what slope that is. So maybe we want this as a -5%. So I can go in and individually change what that slope is in terms of that ditch in that median. So -5%. So a lot of flexibility. And again, you can see super elevation and runoff for our spirals and tangents. So I'll just come right out of that. So again, a lot of flexibility in terms of what we want to be able to see. Configure components independently, different components anywhere along our design. And again, if I just pick on one, pick on my tree, I'll zoom in there a little bit, pick on my tree. I can split direct decorations all along this road if I wanted to. Okay, so just some really quick things. So I'm just going to jump out of this model. So I'll jump out of this model. And I'm just going to do a quick search. So I'm just going to pick on this road tutorials, and everything I'm showing you is from scratch. So I really don't have some things set up just like the last model. I just kind of drew a road in there and just kind of show you everything from scratch. But again, applying grading to fix the slope with independently controlling slopes on the left side or the right side, super elevations, on-screen graphics, design standards, ability to make changes on the fly. So I'm just going to zoom in here for this area just to kind of facilitate the idea of flood analysis. And I'm just trying to adhere to our time frame. So if I came in and said I want to run analysis, we have flood simulation. So based upon this flood simulation, it's prompting me, I want to do water surface elevation. I can have my site defined in terms of my inflow and my outflow, and then I can run simulation. So I'll run the simulation, and it says flood simulation failed, which is okay. If I came in and I exit that mode, I'm going to create a new simulation. I'm going to override, so I'm just going to define an area, pretty straightforward, and come down to here and double pick right there. So it tells me what my acreage is. I'll define my inflow, so I'll pick once. It shows me my nice thick line, and then it define my outflow. I'll come here and double pick right there. And then I'll just go in based upon parameters in terms of CFS. I can go in, this is going to be static. I can do hydrographs also. I'll just from distributed all the way to uniform. And then you can put in your triangle size to define a more tighter surface model. And then simulation and interval in terms of minutes. So I'll go in and based upon my internet, hopefully, I'll right click. So I'm just going to go back one time. So we'll cancel out of that. We'll select flood simulation one more time. I'm going to create a new one. And I'm going to define this area here. And we'll try to stay on the top of these mountains here. Then we'll zoom out to here. And then we'll just double pick there. And we'll come in, we'll define that area there for my inflow. Define that area there for my out. And we'll try to run that simulation again. Where is that? We'll do that uniform. We'll change that to hydrograph, CFS. Okay. And we'll see what happens. And the boundary conditions, that file is okay. Keep that static. Let's make sure this is fine. Okay, so my log file, if I came back, let me just come back out of here. One of the reasons why it may give me that log file error is because I have one simulation on top of the other in terms of my proposal. Once this catches up, let's see what this finishes out doing. And I'll cancel back out of that. We'll jump right back out of that in terms of our site. We'll come back into, I'm going to open up this design road. And this will take a second. Pavement drainage we will also take a look at. I'm going to cancel that and cancel that part in terms of our road. I'm going to come back. You just take a quick look here in terms of our site. Design a quick pavement drainage so we can recognize what super elevations does within that in terms of our road design. So if I zoom right back into this area, one of the things I wanted to do is that as that zooms in, I want to cross this site with a design road. So I'm going to come in terms of my design road, something pretty straightforward. As an example, we're just going to come along here and just double pick that point. And as an example, I know we have some really quick intersections. The beauty of working with InfraWorks, I can create different proposals. I can delete and remove. So pretty straightforward in terms of what we want to be able to do. One of the things I want to be able to do with this road, as I lengthen this, so I'm going to turn this vertically, and I'll lengthen the road through there. And I'll also pull it down here. And one of the things I want to be able to do from this road, as that's crossing, I want to raise this above. So we'll create the tunnel effect. And even with this tunnel effect, we can move this over. And what I want to be able to do is create a component road from this design road. And I'm going to say 4 lanes, which is fine. And it's got a little jog there. Now I'll move that out. So I'll raise that up. And I'm going to raise this up a little. And what I want to do is add a bridge component. So if we right click, we can show cross-sectional view. We can still do those things. I want to add a bridge. So here's my add bridge. And I can pick this point and kind of come through here. Just double pick, just to kind of give you visualization of what you can do in terms of that. So again, clearly we're not going to have that. The ability to come in and replace this assembly here with a concrete median instead of a grass median. So if we just pick on it, I can define where I want that to be in terms of that section. And of course that looks a little out of whack, but for all intents and purposes, we should have the idea in terms of what we're creating here. So once that catches up, so now you can see it's changed in terms of what we want to be able to do in terms of our sections within our road. So clearly a bridge isn't going to have grass there. It's going to be concrete. So a lot of flexibility. I'm going to pick on it again. One of the things we're able to do now is not only that, is we can show within our bridge, if I pick on it, we can show components. So maybe I only want to see the deck and no girders or piers. So I can focus just on the deck. I'm going to right click, cut those components right back on, and I can individually go in and define and change. So even if I wanted to change a specific material within my deck or within my girder or within my bearing here. So we can change and show specific components. So we'll say we just want to see girders. So if I came in and picked the girder now, so I can go in and change my spacing and layout within my girders. So a lot of flexibility in terms of what we want to be able to do in terms of the new InfraWorks 360. And if I came back in, something really simple, if I right click, I can say add drainage network. And then I'll just go ahead and hit enter. I'll make it simple. So we had no network in the beginning. We'll go right back to that, add drainage network. We'll press enter. And what we want to be able to do is also facilitate questions. So what I'm going to do in a moment here, once this finishes up, do this real quick. We'll take that out. And just because we have room here, we'll do a quick design road. And I'll make this simple. I'll double pick there to get out across our idea. I'll pick on that, raise that up. Right click and add a drainage network. From that drainage network, it's going to generate a drainage network automatically for me. If I zoom in, now I have a drainage network there. The beauty of working with this is it knows now, if I pick on my inlet, gutter, cross slope, longitudinal slope, in reference to the impact of where these inlets are. And if I right click, I could also do an analysis in terms of rainfall content and also my impact performance of that inlet. So a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do now with InfraWorks 360.